Hey you, this is Jasim from CodeBan, and in this video I'm gonna be talking about authentication in Django. So in specific we'll talk about how to log a user in and how to log out a user. So if you are new to my channel, please do subscribe my channel and click the bell icon near to it. So without any further, let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so I have created a simple boilerplate here. I have created a new Django project, and I have the virtual environment up and running. It is activated. Then I have created a new pages application. You can find in here a new application name is named as pages. Then I have added it in the installed apps section. Now in the base URLs, in the root app URLs, I have a path to the home page, which includes the pages.urls. So in the pages.urls you can find again a home path, which gives a control to views.home. So in the views.py we have a simple function based view there. So def home, which returns pages slash home.html. So in the templates directory here, you can find that home.html returns just an h1 tag with hello world. So the whole agenda for today's session will be like we'll talk about how to log a user in and how to log a user out, which means logging and log out of a user. Then the idea behind this page is that we'll make a condition like in order to access this page, this home.html, or the specific view, this home view, the user needs to be logged in. So if the user is not logged in, then he cannot access this page. So for that logic, I have implemented this simple home page here. So we'll start off with the authentication in Django. So if we come back into the documentation, so this is the home page. My server is running. This is that hello world page. So if we come back into this URL, the link will be in the description section. This is official Django documentation on user authentication. They give you some sort of information here. The Django authentication system handles both authentication and authorization. Now the authentication means the logging in and log out, creating new users, then password change and reset and all those stuff. The authorization is different, which means permissions, whether this user is able to access that page, this page, that particular functionality, like adding a new object and all, updating and all those stuff, that permission related stuff. That's the authorization part. So in the authentication part, if I go to this one here using the Django authentication system, we can see that there is something called user objects. Now this is a model. There is a model named user, which is responsible for this logging, logout and all those stuff. Now that user model has some primary attributes like username, password, email, first name and last name. There are a lot of other attributes. You can see them in the full API documentation. So this is by default built into Django. If you just migrate, then you can see that a user model there. So I'll show you that once we hit that. Now there is a lot of tutorials, there is a lot of information available in the documentation of creating new users, super users, passwords and all. Now what we are interested in is if we just find Control F and if we search for URLs, then you can find something like this one, authentication views, this section. Herein you can find something like this one, URL patterns is equal to this one, this particular path. If something like accounts comes in as the path, then include the django.contrib.auth.urls. Now what this does is it has a couple of URLs in that auth.urls, as you can find it in here. So it gives you that full-fledged functionality with just one line of code. If we just do this code, you have access to all these paths by default. So it has the login, logout, password change and reset, all those those paths available for you by default, built in. You don't have to bother about that. So in our project we are going to be using this one, so I'll just copy and paste this one. I'll just copy, and in the base URLs here underneath the admin, I'll just paste that. So if something like path of accounts comes in, then include all those URLs in the django.contrib.auth.urls, which means we have now access to all these URLs. So we'll be talking about the login and logout URLs. We will talk about password change and reset in a future video. So in this one we'll be talking about these two URLs. So if I now go to this URL, if I go to the accounts slash login, so if I say accounts slash login, then you can find that it gives you the sort of error which says template does not exist. So what this does is, if we come back into the documentation, if we go a little bit down, you can find something like LoginView. Now this account slash login at the end uses the LoginView as the view where we write the logic. So this is a class that represents the login functionality. So it expects that the template name is a registration slash login.html. So in the registration folder, there should be a template called login.html so that it can process. Now what this at the end does is in the get request, so if we just go to account slash login, it will display a login form that posts to the same URL, which means it will have that username field and password field, and if we try to enter those fields and if we submit the form, then a post request is generated to the same URL, account slash login, and if the whole logic will be done by the LoginView itself. You don't have to bother about checking those username and password. Those is already written. So if everything is correct, if there is a matching user, then it will redirect to settings.login redirect URL. Now we'll talk about this one in just a minute. So that's the whole idea. Now if there is no user matching with the username and password provided, then it gives you that validation error, credentials not valid and all those stuff. So that's the whole idea of how this works, how the LoginView works. Now in order to get rid of this error, we need to make a template. So now in order to manage all those accounts related stuff like login, logout and all, and password changing and all those stuff, I'll make a new application. So I'll say python manage.py, then I'll say start app, then I'll say accounts. So that is created. Now in the settings.py, I'll just add accounts there, and in here what I will possibly do is I'll just create a new templates folder. So templates, and in templates, if I look into the documentation again, you can see that it expects the registration folder login.html. So templates slash registration slash login.html. So if I say that, then if I refresh the page, it gives you that empty blank page because we don't have anything here. So we'll just create something here. So I'll just create a boilerplate. So by just saying exclamation mark and click tab, you get this basic boilerplate. So we'll just rename this to be login. Now you could of course use that base.html and extend that base here. That's up to you. I'll just stick with the regular one, with the simplest one. So in here what I'll do is I want to create a form. So the form is actually available here in this page. You can access the form here, form attribute here. It is totally available, but we need to create that form tag, and also I'll just create a form tag. Now the action is to the same page itself, so you don't have to explicitly say the action, but you can also say it as like the URL login, which is the login URL named URL that is nothing but the account slash login. So if the user submits, then give a post request. So we need to provide a method equal to post to this URL, the login URL, which means slash account slash login. So in here the first thing as always is CSRF token. Then the next thing is the we don't need those input types and all, just the submit button. So I'll create a new submit button here, and the value I'll put it as login. So with that being said, now we have access to the form variable there. So if I say form, and if I refresh this page, you get that tiny little login form. So username, password, login. So that's perfectly working. Now I'll not be going to the styling part that you can of course do by yourself. So I'll just stick with the basic this one basic templating here. Now I'll just say ASP so that it is nicely aligned underneath. So if I save that, it's underneath now. Now this is totally working. You can just log in a user. So what I will actually do is I'll just create a new super user so that I can just log that super user in this page, in this account slash login. So I'll say python manage.py create super user. So if I say it says because actually we didn't migrated our stuff. If we migrate, then only that user table is available. So I have migrated that. Now if we look into the database, the default database I'm using is SQLite. So I have configured that. In the database section you can find I have just configured. You can, in order to configure, just click on the plus data source, then the database you are using. So I'll just stick with SQLite. Then in here you can find the file option here. So just do this triple quotes there. Now in here just provide the path to this db.sqlite3 in your project. So in your project there is a file called db.sqlite3. Just provide that path to there. Click OK, and you'll get something like this one. So in here you can find in the schemas, main. If I try to refresh this one, you'll get all those available models. Now in here you can find the user model by saying auth.user. You can find the ID, password, username, first name, last name, a lot of fields here. Now this is responsible for the login and creating and all those steps. So I have just showed you that database. Now you can of course go to admin panel and see those things. That's up to you. Now what we are going to be doing is we'll say that create super user. So create super user. So if I say like that, and I'll just stick with admin and admin at admin.me, and the password again is I'll stick with admin and I'll bypass the validation. So that super user is created. Now I can actually log that super user in here. So if I say like admin and the password to be admin, if I click login, then it actually logged in, and it goes to something like this one, account/profile. Now why this one? If we look back into the documentation, it says after successful login it will redirect to settings.login redirect URL. Now this defaults to account/profile. Now that's why this URL. So we don't actually have account/profile. So what we'll do is we'll just override the settings there. So in the settings.py and underneath at the bottom, what we'll say is login redirect URL is equal to, and I'll just say the name of the URL. In our case, we'll redirect to the home page itself, so which is just the slash itself. So I'll just stick with that slash there. Now if I say if I refresh the page again, if I log in the user again, if I try to, let me say it as accounts/login admin, and if I submit that again, I get redirected to the home page itself. So that's totally working now. Now you have been successfully authenticated. Now in order to log out, the next thing we are discussing is the logout. You can see that we have a URL called accounts/logout there. So if I just say /account/logout, then that's it. It just logged me out. Now why this page? That's next question. Now the answer to that is, if we go back a little bit down, you can find a logout view. Then in the logout view you can find the I believe it is the logout URL. So I think yeah, this one, the settings.logout redirect URL. So you want to override that. So if I say like logout redirect URL, then you can of course go to that /accounts/login, or you can go to that what to say, home page itself. So I'll just stick with this one, and if I do that logout again, then I get that account/login. So that's totally working perfectly fine. Now the next thing we are interested in is the actual logic itself. So in here you can find we have created a home page. Now if the person is not logged in, then he cannot access this page. That's the criteria we set at the beginning. So we can just say a decorator here. Now this is just regular Python. The decorator, you can see more on decorators if you search on the web. So there is a decorator in Django called login required. So if we say just like this one, and if I import that up at the top, you can see from django.contrib.auth.urls import login required. Now yeah, just a double blank lines there. Now if I save this one, and now I'm not logged in, actually I'm logged out. I just logged out in previous one. So if I go to the home page now, it redirects me to the login page. Now that's because only the person with logged in, or only the logged in users can access this page. So if the user is not logged in, it redirected me to that account/login page. So if I just test that again, it redirected me to that login page. So that's totally working. Now what if I logged in there? If I say admin, then that is totally accessible. Hello world, you can go to this view right in here, so you are logged in. So that's totally perfect. Now the next thing, the last thing I'm going to be doing in here is in the in the views.py, sorry, in the home.html. So in here what we will be doing is just creating a logout button. So I'll just say an a tag. That href should go to a URL logout, which means the account/logout, and I'll just say logout there. Now if you click that button, it'll just logs me out. So if I refresh, now I'm logged in. So if I say this one, I'm logged out. Now you cannot access that home page again. You cannot, because if we go to that home page, you cannot access that because we have provided the login required decorator. So that's all about this section, the login and logout. So hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any doubts, any suggestions, please let me know in the comment section. If you like the video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed my channel, please do subscribe my channel and click the bell icon near to it. So thank you for watching. We'll see you in the very next one.